we want to move on and talk about the physiology of lactation. And simply, this is the process by which milk is produced, is secreted in the mammary glands, and therefore goes down the ductal system of the breast and therefore onto the surface of the nipple for the baby to suckle. And this process is very important in the initial 6 months because antibodies from the mother, nutrients that are needed for the growth of the baby and protection against any pathogens and any diseases that the baby might come across are going to be initiated through this process of breastfeeding. And as midwife, always we should encourage massive breastfeeding so that the best level of health are attained by this new growing baby. And for us to know the physiology and of the milk production and letdown, we need to know the anatomy of the breast so that we get an understanding. So quickly, we look at the anatomy of the breast. So here we have the breast. This is the breast. And underneath the breast, there is the superficial, the supporting tissues, because the breasts are going to be found lying on the pectoralis muscle of the body. So underneath that is going to be the pectoralis muscle. And of course, the breasts are located between the second and the 12th vertebrae bone. So of course, we have got the 12th vertebrae bone. So the breasts are going to start from the second lip up to down onto the 12th vertebral lip. So here we have the second lip. And of course, in between there is an interstitial spaces. These are the intercostal muscles, the muscles of the lips, the intercostal muscles. So this is the second, down onto the, so second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, up to the 12th lip. And if you look at the breast, the breasts are also supported by these suspensory ligaments. And the way we will look at this is we are going to make another diagram of the anatomy of this breast so that we get a clear understanding of what we are saying, because this is the side view. And the way the breasts are made is that they are arranged in these clusters of lobules called the mammary glands, because the mammary glands are the ones which are going to be producing milk, and that milk is going to travel through the ductal system and to the down onto the surface of the nipple so that the baby can suckle. So here is what we are talking about. So these are the clusters of the lobules. And we have got about 15 to 20 of these clusters of lobules arranged in this series of this nicely packed system. And of course, they are separated by what we call the suspensory ligaments. So this is a suspensory ligament here. Suspensory ligament, and this is the clusters of lobules making what we call the mammary gland. So the mammary gland is arranged in this nicely packed system of clusters of lobules. So this is one lobule of the breast. There is another lobule of the breast, course, they are going to get the milk down onto the ductal system, and then they will get the milk through the lactifallaceous sinus, and then for a reservoir of milk for a short period of time, and then from the lactifallaceous sinus, the milk is going to go down into the lactifallaceous duct and then onto the surface of the nipple so that the baby can suckle. So here we have another lobule, the clusters of lobules. These are very important because milk is going to be produced in these lobules. They are glandular tissues. So here we have these clusters of lobules. So this is the arrangement of the breast, arranged in this nicely packed system of the lobules, the clusters, the lobules. So milk is going to be produced in this. So for us to have a clear understanding of what we are saying, we are going to draw another diagram of the breast, but in this case, in the other view. So here we have the breast. We are going to get the ductal system of the lobules. So here we have one lobule of the breast. So all these are going to get the milk, the lobule, one lobule, arranged in this alveoli system. So they will get the milk down to the mammary duct. This is the mammary duct. And the mammary duct is going to take the milk through the lactifallaceous sinus. So this is the lactifallaceous sinus. And then the lactifallaceous sinus will allow for a reservoir of milk for a short period of time, and then it will take the milk down the nipple, the surface of the nipple, so that the infant can suckle. So this is the process. So this is the lobule. This is the lobule of the breast. We've got about 15 to 20 of these lobules. The ductal system arrangement of the breast. Now, if you think about the lobules, in a little bit more detail, because as you can see, this is taking milk down to the nipple, the surface of the nipple, because this is the nipple here. This is the nipple. This is the nipple, and then we have the suspensory ligament, and then we have this ductal system of the breast. So if you think about this, we imagine this is taking the milk towards the nipple. So this is the nipple here. So this is the nipple. Again, we are going to have another lobule. This is going to be, of course, supported by the suspensory ligament. Also, we are going to have the suspensory ligament here. Again, we are going to have another lobule coming from down here. We said there's going to be about 15 to 20 of these. So this is another lobule. And lactifallaceous sinus, lactifallaceous duct. So this is the lactifallaceous sinus, and this one here, this is the mammary duct, and this is the lactifallaceous sinus. Of course, this will allow for the reservoir of milk for a short period of time before it drains into the lactiferous duct. So this is the lactiferous duct which will take the milk down to the surface of the nipple. So here we have another clusters of these lobules. So they will take, this is another lobule, about 15 to 20 of these. So they are going, the milk is going to be produced in this, the alveoli of the lobules, because the cells in this alveoli of the lobules, they are made up of the cells called the myoepithelial cells. So these are made up of the myoepithelial cells. Okay, we'll talk about this in a little bit more details. So here we have the cells of the myoepithelial cells, the ones which are producing the milk. So here we have the lobule. So this is the alveoli. So they're taking the milk down to the surface of the nipple. This is the lactiferous sinus and the lactiferous duct, and then they are taking the milk towards the surface of the nipple. This is the nipple, and this is the lactiferous sinus. And this is the lactiferous duct. Of course, we have the mammary duct. This is the mammary duct. And then we have the clusters of these arrangement of the alveoli. So of course we are going to have other lobules coming in from the breast tissue, because all of these they are about 15 to 20. They are taking they are taking the milk down to the surface of the nipple so that the infant can suckle, and they are supported by this suspensory ligament. And with age, the suspensory ligaments tend to lose their rigidity, their strength. So that's the only reason why older women have got the breasts which are going down. They are loose as a result of the suspensory ligaments being loosely packed. And then this is another reason why extreme exercises can cause this strenuous on these suspensory ligaments to tend to lose their supporting strength. That's the reason why breast should always be supported during this process of exercising. So these are the suspensory ligaments. Of course, we are going to have another branch of this. Of course, it's the same on the other side. Of course, it's the same. Again, we have another suspensory ligament. Again, another, just like that, about 15 of these, but in this case, we have only drawn 2. So they are all taking the milk down to the surface of the nipple. So they're made of the cells called the myoepithelial cells. So these are myoepithelial cells. We imagine this the alveoli. The myoepithelial cells are the contractile cells of the epithelial cells of the breast. The cells which are responsible for the contraction of the breast, of the mammary ducts and the mammary glands are the myoepithelial cells. So inside they are made of the, so the cells which are inside are the what we call the epithelial cells. Now, we want to describe the physiology of lactation using these same diagrams that we have drawn here. So the process starts when the infant suckle. There could be no physiology of this milk letdown without the infant suckling. So the process begins when the infant suckles. So what happens is that when the infant suckles on the nipple, then the nerve impulses are going to be sent through the spinal cords and towards the brain. And the brain is going to sensitize the hypothalamus, because there's a part of the brain that we call the hypothalamus. So here we have the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus of the brain. And the hypothalamus of the brain, once stimulated, it is going to cause the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland, because we have the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland and the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland. So this is the anterior lobe, the anterior pituitary, or the adenohypophysis, and of course we have got the posterior pituitary, or the neurohypophysis, also called the neurohypophysis. So what happens is that once the baby suckles, then nerve impulses are going to be sent through the spinal cord and travels to the brain, and the brain is going to sensitize the hypothalamus. Then the hypothalamus, these are the nerve impulses traveling there down, stimulating the hypothalamus to tell the anterior pituitary gland to produce the hormone called prolactin, because there's going to be prolactin. And once prolactin has been stimulated by the anterior pituitary gland, then it's going to go down through the blood and travels through the ductal system of the breast and goes into the epithelial cells of the lobules. They are called the lobules. They are the cells which are made up of the ductal system of the breast. So those epithelial cells, once stimulated by prolactin, there's going to be an increase in production of milk, but there's a problem. We have milk produced. The milk is produced, but we want the milk to go through the ductal system and reaches the baby's mouth so that the baby can have all the necessary nutrients and antibodies from the mother through the milk. But the milk can't move on its own. The pressure is going to be low, because we want the pressure to be about 10 to 20 millimeters of mercury. So what happens? Also, the brain, once the impulses are stimulated, once they go to the brain, they also stimulate the hypothalamus, as well as telling the hypothalamus, telling the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland to produce the hormone prolactin. It is also going to stimulate the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland to produce an hormone called oxytocin. So there's going to be production of oxytocin by the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland, and the oxytocin will travel through the blood and goes to the ductal system of the mother and goes directly to the myoepithelial cells. And oxytocin is always a contracting hormone. So what oxytocin is going to do is that it's going to cause contraction of these myoepithelial cells to contract, and whilst they contract, they are going to let down the milk through the ductal system. So the milk is going to travel from this alveoli and through the mammary duct. Once it travels through the mammary duct, because even these cells are made of the myoepithelial cells and the epithelial cells. The epithelial cells being the glandular cells producing milk, the myoepithelial cells being the muscle cells contracting, being the contractile muscles. So they are going to contract to let down the milk through this process of milk let down. And then the milk is going to be stored in the lactiferous sinus for about a few minutes or a short period of time, and then it's going to go through the lactiferous duct and then down to the surface of the nipple so that the baby can suckle. And that summarizes the process of the physiology of lactation. So it is the baby suckling which is going to cause the nerve impulses to be sent to the brain, and that is going to cause the brain to release, to stimulate the hypothalamus, to stimulate on either two of the pituitary glands, the posterior to produce oxytocin to contract the myoepithelial muscles or cells so that the milk can be let down. And also, as well as producing oxytocin, it's going to stimulate the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland to produce the hormone called prolactin. And prolactin is the hormone which is going to cause the glandular tissues of the lobules, the clusters of the arrangement of lobules, the cells, to produce milk. And that process is what we call lactation.